Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Cowboys Takeover. My name is Jason Kent. Man, we have a doozy for you today. What a great game last night. What a great game it was. And to bring into the discussion right away, let's get him in, the man that was there to discuss, I think, what the key takeaways from last night's game were for our Dallas Cowboys. Mr. Aaron James. Aaron, how you doing today, sir?
Jason, I'm doing good, man. I'm still pumped, still have high emotions, high energy from being at the game. And, that doesn't just leave you overnight, especially when it's the kind of statement victory that we had at MetLife in Northern Jersey. And I can tell you, I'm excited. I'll share in a couple minutes what the atmosphere was like. Sitting there with some Cowboys fans, also with some Giants fans. But let's dive into some key takeaways for the Cowboys. Now, kind of a historical performance. We haven't seen this type of winning differential since the late 90s. Dak continues his winning streak against the G-men, now at 11 straight games. And we know G-men are not happy about that. Cowboys have had 70 turnovers in the last 35 games. So the statement, key takeaway for me, curious if you're on board, if you have something else in mind, is that our defense is on track and showcase they need to be respected because they are after that number one defense in the team. And I wanted to put it this way. David versus Goliath, right? When this team jumped off to that lead from special teams to that turnover, defense, special teams touchdown, they didn't take their foot off the gas from there. Many may not remember this part, but when David took down Goliath, he got the sword out and he decapitated, got that head, picked up the head, carried it into Jerusalem. And that's just like the mentality and that, this defense, I think, wants a statement this defense wants to make. And we're going to see it throughout the rest of the season. What do you got, Jason?
See, the defense was quite impressive. I will say that. I'm happy they played so well. The big takeaway is still, I think, that run defense. I don't think it looked as bad because they got out to that quick lead. But that first drive, I felt like Daniel Jones was running the ball, as we see there. Saquon had some good runs. Their run defense didn't look great. And then, they got, I don't want to say got lucky because I'm sure you practice it, but then they got the block field goal for the touchdown at the end of that drive, which really helped solidify things. And then next drive 3 and out. Then Dallas goes down, you score, interception. So it's like, man, just 4 positions right in a row. Dallas is like heating up. So Giants never got a chance to get into their groove offensively after that first drive, I felt like, because their O-line is pretty abysmal. I felt bad for Daniel Jones, really. But this to me is how the Cowboys, if they're going to win, it's got to be playing like this. And what I mean by that, you got to play from ahead. Because once they got that lead, you saw they unleashed the dogs, Mm-hmm. Micah Parsons, Lawrence, they just went through. They had 7 sacks last night. I think they're second most all time. Osa Odigizua, I love his name, 2 sacks. Dorrance Armstrong, a sack. Chauncey Golston, after he got a sack taken away, goes back next play and gets a sack. These guys were eating up there. So I was happy to see, like you said, they didn't take their foot off the gas. They dominated on that defense. They went after, and they made the big plays when they needed to be played. And Trayvon Diggs, man, that first, the pop out for the interception for the touchdown, later forced fumble. This dude just has a knack for getting the ball away from the offense. And it is quite impressive to see. And even Gilmore, man, day one gets an interception. So I thought they would come out and ball. Luckily, we didn't need the offense much, but that defense, I guess Aaron James and Ryan Clark may be right, number 1 scoring defense in the NFL right now. 7 sacks, 2 interceptions.
There's one right there. I think to your point, when the offense, when the G-men have to be on the field, they had like 2 to 3 back-to-back possessions in a relatively quick amount of time because of the turnovers. So when you think about the offensive line being out there against our defensive unit without very much of a break that you generally get with a couple mix of drives, I think that played a little role. This pass interference right here, it's kind of like, oh man, when I was there, I'm not sure if that was really a catchable ball. The Giants fans around me didn't think it was a PI. They didn't really seem to go into it very much on the broadcast. But like you said, like it or not, we dominated. We made a statement, and we'll get into it later. But I think there were some pluses in not having to showcase a lot of our. I would say, I don't know about maybe scheme plays going into a tough defensive match for week 2. So I think there's some positives that can come from that.
And it doesn't help, when it's raining like it was.
Yeah.
There were a lot of drop balls from Dallas, the tight end position. I texted you last night right away. It was one thing that was very concerning, because in games later in the season, you're going to need those guys to catch it. So you can scratch it off as maybe a little bit, you're the new guys a little bit. It was raining last night, but when those balls hit you in the hands like that, you got to catch them. So that's something I think is something keep your eye on, because Dak, he looks to his tight ends a lot. So if these guys are dropping the ball, it's not going to be good. And I was impressed by the way Pollard ran as well on offense. And I say that because the Giants, once you get up like that, the Giants know you're running. So the way Dallas was able to run the ball with the Giants pretty much knowing at this point, we got such a large lead, we can go ahead and just run, and they just were able to still run. So that was one thing I was happy with. And the offensive line looked pretty good, missing Tyler Smith and, his replacement going down mid-game. I don't remember if they said how long he was out for. But, the offensive line was impressive as well. So the little things, they played the way they should have against the team that I think we thought was the perfect matchup for them, because they did things well that Dallas struggled against with the run. But Dallas should have beat them, and they handled them very, very well.
Yeah, we were both confident. We had pretty convincing predictions. I think 2 touchdowns, more or less. I was at, I think, 34. I think you were at 31. We had the Giants scoring maybe 17, 20, but some of those points coming in garbage time. So those were pretty convincing, convincing win, but this was totally dominant from start to finish, really. I mean, the Giants, I would say, they had me a little bit nervous. They were moving down the field that very first drive, but couldn't rebound from the momentum and just the air we took out of that stadium.
I definitely felt a 3 and out next, but that's got to sting, because they were an 11 play drive. I think that was what took me. I was like, man, this isn't that first drive wasn't the Dallas defense we thought. Mm-hmm. And then one thing happened and it just flipped. And then once they got that 9-0 lead, dude, that's what I'm worried about though. If that's a close game, it may play out a little different, because their run defense and Giants were able to control the ball a lot in that, I know it's one drive, but I think even throughout the game, Saquon still had pretty good numbers. They just weren't able to use him. I'm sure as they imagined they were going to be able to.
Yeah, and we'll get more into that. But let's talk about our next topic here and what we have. Speaking of the Giants, there was a lot of hype going into this season, and even a lot of analysts, the pros, some of them picked the Giants to upset the Cowboys. They were just going off of them building off the prior season. And everyone knows they outperformed their talent and expectations. But then you have, what took place last night. Well, what would you say we learned from the Giants yesterday?
That's not a lot, honestly. I didn't think they were good to begin. They're probably a 9-10 win team just because, do have talent. But on a night where just everything seemed to go wrong, to me, I take, when you get blown out like that, I take, I don't think there's a lot you could take from it because it
Okay.
really felt like everything they did just turned to dog crap. That like Daniel Jones is in there with 4 minutes left, just getting eaten alive by Dallas' second team. Like at some, like, come on. Daniel, he'd shown, he did struggle. He had a few drop, from from snaps just because how wet it was. As we said, Dallas's receiver or tight ends were dropping some balls. And Dallas, like, I think everybody agrees that Dallas does have a pretty good defense. They showed last night they're, on top of being able to blitz, they can play coverage. And they're fast. They are really fast. So that neutralizes a lot of what the Giants, they tried to upgrade speed, get more weapons, but Dallas has so much on defense. I do think in that second game it'll be a much better game. I don't think it'll be this bad again. I just, it really felt like just an off night for the Giants, and just everything really went right for the Cowboys. And I don't want to try to downplay the win because it's a huge win, but it just really felt like that from that opening. I don't want to say opening drive but from that field goal attempt after, just nothing. They even missed a 36-yard field goal. Like everything that could go wrong went wrong for them. So I still think they're going to be a wild card team. Definitely a shot.
Okay.
But yeah.
For me with the Giants, I feel like I don't know. I guess the sample size, I know it, and I could be prisoner of the moment, but it just seemed to me that they regressed a little bit. Jalen Hyatt did pretty well in the preseason, but he didn't get a lot of snaps from what I saw. I think maybe even only less than a handful of targets. Darren Waller, again, the big thing with him is, can he stay healthy? And he came into the game questionable and was a game time decision because of a hamstring issue. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it's not fair to say that they can't do anything with him. He was probably 80%, and hamstrings are really annoying to play with because you really can't go full speed because you can't pump the brakes, and that's when the hamstring starts to kind of kick in. I did listen to the post game show with Brian Dable, and it sounds like you were reading off his script because he said we tanked in every area that we could tank at. And he said no excuses, and we're just going to have to move on from here. I mean, that was really a demoralizing type of game. I don't know how they're going to rebound. I mean, if you recall, we had this type of blowout against the Vikings last season, and we knew that the Vikings were a pretty solid team. They rebounded and going to the playoffs. They didn't have a hangover, but I just feel like this happening at game one Sunday night football. I think it's going to be a little bit. I think it's going to impacts the team more so than later in the season where you're just like, hey, we're all banged up. They got the best of us, or what have you.
Man, see, you don't take in account for anything like any of that. Like game one, Dallas. I get we made a big deal about their guys not playing. It seemed to affect the offense and Dak maybe a little bit, but that defense, I didn't think it would affect them at all. Come on, you really don't think? I do like, and I didn't listen to Dable at all, so I had no idea.
Okay.
But I do think week one is probably the easiest one to get over, especially in those conditions against a team that is, teams that, one of the three teams that are going to win the NFC. So you're playing one of the best teams in the NFC week one in those conditions. I do cut the Giants a little bit of slack. Especially, but the one thing I noticed is something I think all Giants fans have said over the years, especially ones that I know, that they're always looking for offensive line. Like offensive line has always been their biggest struggle. I know they have that left tackle Thomas, who they said, but when you only have one guy, it doesn't matter because every other position was getting beat.
Mhm.
So I tend to.
All
It's
right.
tough for me to really bash on him, you know.
Well, one thing for sure, week 1 of the NFL, you don't wanna come across a top 3 defense, ranked defense for game 1 because it's probably going to show a lot of flaws in your game. And, look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Some were calling on an upset there, and they could only score, what, I think it was 7
That's what it
points.
was. It's funny. My buddy, he's like, I was talking to him. I was over his house Saturday night. He's just talking like, yeah, I'm worried about this game. San Fran, best preseason offense. I'm like, dude, stop. Or no, Pittsburgh. I was like, Pittsburgh, and they blow. I said, yeah, their defense is like you said. When you face those top few defenses early on, especially teams you're just trying to figure it out, it's not good. And they, both those defenses dominated. It makes for a fun Week 5 matchup. I can't wait for that.
Well, we cover a lot of the division on this show, so we're going to talk more about the Giants, and we'll have a couple comments on them to see if they are in fact able to rebound and what they look like. And again, my final point is just that they have nothing to hang their hat on. Yeah, couldn't really put anything together. 12 passing yards at halftime. Uh, couldn't even get a touchdown. Missed a field goal, like you said. So we'll see how things go. I mean, the Brian Daboll does deserve. He has earned, based off of his reputation thus far, that he should be able to turn this team around. And fortunately for them, it is week 1, so that I guess that's one of the positives. So transitioning to our boys, Cowboys Nation, um, a lot to be impressed about. We even talked about a couple of things starting off the show. But Jason, what else do you have, or what do you want to elaborate on as far as our team?
I just think that defense again, like I know we've been saying it most of the show, they were impressive. And that to me, when that shows, I think that does. I get it's the Giants and they were bad. It shows when Dallas does get ahead, they're going and you can't really run against them because you have to throw. They're scary and they're going to force a lot of turnovers this year. It'll be nice to play the Eagles and the San Frans because then we'll know where we're really at. But like those teams that are less than us, this defense should feast. So it's not like to me, it wasn't any one person. I think, Trayvon Diggs, like I said, really resulted in 2 turnovers. Gilmore got his interception. That defensive line they're rolling them through and just eating, and they have so much depth there now.
Mhm.
Micah he looked fantastic yesterday. So I was just rather I didn't think they would, and I like maybe prisoner of the moment. I was very much impressed with how well that defense played and really just shut them down and didn't take the foot off the gas. I thought maybe the Giants would get something late. That defense came and just showed up and played all 60 minutes, and it was fabulous to see. And I'm really excited to see what Dan Quinn has for this defense going forward this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, a couple things there on the defense. Trayvon Diggs, big hit on Saquon that caused for that ball to pop up. And I've commented before, Diggs not that physical, doesn't have the hit stick on Madden. They just turned it off for him. But he gets that big hit, lays out Saquon so Bland can get the pick 6. I thought that was huge. If you noticed, Parsons was on different spots of the D line. Now, when I started to see that, the first thing that came to mind was if he can have hit amazing production that we anticipate him out of different spots throughout that D line, I think that can elevate him potentially for an MVP candidate of the league. Not forget defensive player of the year. I think if he can dominate, have multiple sacks in multiple parts of that front, he will be, he should be. I know, we always talk about put the quarterbacks up there, but he should be in the conversation.
He's gonna have to break the record for that. It's possible. He could definitely do it, but he's gonna have to break the record for that. I would think.
Or match or come close. I think it depends how he
No,
gets
you
there.
have to have 23 sacks. I
And
don't think even 20 still, because we've seen guys with 20 not even sniff an MVP vote. You got to break that sack, and I think you got to get like 25 if it's going to be like a defensive line. Because Aaron Donald hasn't even won an MVP, and that dude's been one of the most dominant defensive players. Some say the greatest of all time defensive
yeah,
lineman.
That's
and he
true.
hasn't sniffed an MVP vote, so he's going to have to do something very impressive. But he can do it.
Okay.
He's got that type of talent, and he's still only in his third year. If they showed that statistic last night where I think what the first year kind of split between linebacker, defensive line. Last year he got all of his sacks on defensive line and about 85% of his snaps on defensive line. So even Dallas understands he needs to
Yeah.
be on that line.
So, as far as who else I was impressed with, to me, and this might surprise you, may or may not, the coaching staff. I listened in
Okay.
to Mike McCarthy post game, and he was talking about how they had a scheme for the inclement weather, and how they had different play designs, different plays to call depending on how wet the ball was going to be and the conditions, and so and Dak even said in his interview, which I watched as well, that he also practicing with the wet ball. He's like, you're basically catching a bucket of water. It feels like at times. So we talked about we're going to get into the miscues, but to me, I have to give the coaches credit where it's due. Penalties were not a thing of conversation for our team. Didn't extend drives because we had a lot of momentum shifts and big plays on defense and special teams. And in years past, those big plays on defense would be uh, overcome by penalties. Or
Yes.
kudos there. Like I mentioned, Daniel Jones, 12 passing yards. I mean, he was that first couple drives, he was mobile, and Dan Quinn put a spy out a couple times, and the D line started to contain a little bit more. So just the in game adjustments to ultimately continue their dominance. Shout out to Marquise Ball. This guy essentially replaced. I mean, he probably took Overshown's spot, but Jabril Cox, he not only took his spot, but he also took his number at 14 to add insult to injury. 8 total tackles, most on the defense. One of those was a tackle for loss, and I think it was like a third and short, if I recall correctly. 7 sacks, but to me, a lot of it um, goes to the coaches and the planning and the preparing that went into this game. And I think it was an extra double thumbs up that we got to get some cobwebs out because as we were talking about pregame, Jason, you were a little bit nervous that there wasn't a lot of preseason play. So in a lot of ways for the offense, it felt like for me coming out of halftime, it was like, okay, let's just run this like a preseason game. Let's just get some plays under our belt. We don't have to show too much to the Jets, and being there just to comment on that piece. Giants fans, everyone's riled up. Everyone's happy with pumped up with that first drive, and then as soon as that return special teams touchdown, block field goal, and it really took the air out of the stadium. Uh, the guys behind me that were Giants fans were, calling Daniel Jones to call him Danny Dimes, which I don't know how he even earned that type of title.
No idea.
Yeah,
No idea.
but they call him Danny Dimes, and they were yelling at him, and then the cursing started to come as early as the second quarter, and before you know it, they're checked out. By halftime, the fans a lot of them were under the covers, like they didn't want to add insult to injury and get wet while they were
It was a rough
watching.
game.
Yeah,
Yes.
while they were watching their team get beat.
I wouldn't even wanted to stay and watch the Cowboys win. I don't play with that. But now you just gave us you dig the coaching staff, which that's their job, to prepare them for this. So I'm not as impressed. What do
Okay.
you think the areas of improvement need to be? I don't, it's got to be tough after week 1 and a 40-0 shellacking. But
Mhm.
where do you think they can grow from here?
Yeah, so the tight end room, as you mentioned, was accounted for at least I would have to double check the numbers, but it looked like they accounted for a majority of the drops. I think it was
Yeah,
Hendershot that dropped a touchdown. Jake Ferguson dropped
he had,
what should have been the
he
first
had,
down.
he had two, I think
He
two
killed a
drops too.
drive.
Yeah, two or three drops Ferguson had. He
Yeah.
did
And
not impress.
with the wet ball, Dak did sail a ball on CD that looks like it would have been a touchdown. There was also a defensive holding on that play. When we were in the red zone, I did, and especially a couple possessions at the goal line, I was really nervous because like Pollard, wasn't getting in on the first attempt, and I was like, man, this is kind of the Zeke part. This is the Zeke handoff and 99% touchdown rate. But I do think we're going to get that back with Rojo. I do think he runs a little bit lower to the ground and
Give me
harder to the ground.
Rojo.
Yes, I'm big on Rojo. And hey, look, because of the result we got, I will give a pass to Brandon Aubrey for missing
Nope.
that field goal because it's week 1, and it came off really weird. Like it was like a up and
Terrible kick.
down spiral.
I was
It
quite
wa-
upset.
it wasn't
After
end over end.
the joy of that block field goal for a touchdown, you get the agony of missing another field goal. Game 1, first extra point of the season. And we're already shanking it. It's not looking good. Okay. I hope it doesn't come down to a field goal in playoffs this year. No, I'm not going to rip him that much. First game, it's wet, tough conditions. I'll give the kid a pass this time. But yeah, the tight end room, I think that was something we stressed. And, you said you were very happy with the tight end room and you were, good with them not going after anyone. But yeah, that's tough. You can't be dropping open passes. And, because it's a 40-0 game and, at this point they don't matter. You kind of can shake it off. And I'm sure that's what the coaches are, probably preaching to him a little bit. But in the bigger games and the bigger moments, especially, to me, you're an NFC championship team. You should be at least be in the NFC championship game. So when you can't have those, little mistakes, and every game matters, and every opportunity matters. So these are mistakes now that I'm glad they're making now, but if it goes on and continues, they're going to have to look for a tight end, because Dak does drop it off. And I get we have a very deep receiving core, but Dak does look to his tight end. So we need a very reliable guy that he can just throw it to, and, just a Witten type of guy. And I'm not saying 1,400 yards, but I'm just, somebody that can catch the ball. That was when I don't care that it's raining. It hit
Yeah.
if they were tough passes, I get it. But when they hit you right there, come on. Especially Ferguson. When I saw the second one, I was like, what are we doing here? Like, you already dropped one. You're probably the lead dog for the number 1 tight end, and you're dropping 2-3 passes opening night. And it's not like they were tough catches. So I think those need to be worked on and ironed out. Outside of that, there was really nothing down. Maybe Dak's accuracy a little bit, but I can give that to weather.
Yeah, I was
Drop balls.
I was really hoping that we'd show more love and play design for Michael Gallup. He's kind of, I feel like
They did take a
I really
couple
wanted
shots, I think, with him.
Yeah, I mean the ones that they did. I mean, he had some catches, but the shots that they did take, they weren't really catchable balls.
Yeah, I'll give you
And
that.
I was looking out for him when the game was going on, and he was getting separation, but the Dak was just looking at Dak kind of, he understands, and there was a lot of motion, so Dak knew what the coverage was going to be, and he already knows where he's going to go with the ball before before snapping. So,
Yeah.
but at the same time, we have so many weapons, you can't just evenly distribute the ball to everybody if you wanted to. But Cooks looked amazing. Like you said, Gilmore got a pick. Diggs contributed to a pick and also forced a fumble in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So
on a big play too.
Solid.
It was a pretty big play. Like that was going to be a bit. And it looked like the Giants were starting to put something together. At least for confidence at the end. And Yeah, he's just like, not today, buddy. I'll take that from you. Have a good one. But it was, I tell you what, week one to go. I think you couldn't have asked for a better week one. The only way I think it would have been better if we go kind of, what are your thoughts? We're on, I know it's, but the Eagles needing that defensive stand at the end where the guy had to be out of bounds for a catch, man. Does that make you feel a little more confident where the Cowboys kind of jumping over, or is it, at the end of the day, they got that W, that's all that matters?
Well, the annoying part with the Eagles, and especially last season, is that they won the games they were supposed to win at the end of the day. And not, many of their games were pretty ugly. The NFL, there is not a lot of room for error in these games, regardless of what the power rankings say. I mentioned last year our game against the Texans took a fourth quarter drive. Mahomes went into overtime with them. Eagles needed a last second field goal against the Cardinals, if I recall correctly. They had to come back against the Colts when Jeff Saturday was the head coach for them. So they find ways to win, which is annoying. But in this week one game, I think we got a glimpse. I think we got a glimpse. Now, wait, hold on.
I'm gonna disagree with
Well,
you.
I
Go
think
ahead.
what I think
Go ahead.
what we have, I think what we've underestimated: new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, and 8 new starting defensive players. Now, so Hurts, I caught most of it on Red Zone, and we were tailgating, so I didn't get to see the full game, but his numbers, really weren't all that impressive. And I feel like they made the Patriots. Now the Patriots defense is a real defense. Probably top 6, top 7, for what that's worth. But to allow Mac Jones to kind of come back and potentially have that game leading drive, and there were even some miscues on the defense, and they don't even really have, they have Smith Schuster, but I don't think anyone really sees him as a threat. Now they have a quick turnaround here. The Eagles do, playing Thursday night. Is it against the Cardinals?
Let me see.
I
I think
think,
it is Cardinals week 2.
yeah.
No, it's
So,
Minnesota. Minnesota week 2.
Minnesota, who's bouncing off a disappointing game, if I recall correctly. So they're going to be a little bit amped up to come back strong, and I think Eagles need to sharpen up. But fortunately for them, they have a pretty easy September. They just always seem to take care of Kirk Cousins.
And primetime Kirk, primetime
Yeah,
Kirk Thursday night's
yeah.
definitely going to lose.
So, so I want to see, how they perform that game before I continue this snowball that I'm creating.
I'm going to go ahead and just smash that snowball right now, dude. I'm going to say no, it didn't matter. It was raining. Same for them. Eagles did what they're supposed to do. It's still them. I don't think that game, just like this game, I think that actually helped New England a little bit. They're probably jazzed up because Brady night. So I'm going to say that game name meant nothing. Eagles, like you said, at the end of the day, last year they won the games they're supposed to win. This year, game they're supposed to win, they won. So, right now it's still, match point. We're still playing. We got a long way to go, but the Eagles are still who I think they are. I think they are who we think they are. I think that was Dennis Green, right? But we're not going to let them off the hook.
Yes, it was Dennis Green. Now, I am really interested to see what the new power rankings are going to be. They come out, I believe, Thursday or maybe Wednesday. But
Dallas has to be one after that.
We'll be talking about it. I mean, I think we had the most dominating performance, overall performance. I think it was the only shutout that took place.
It was
on Sunday. I think we were 6th in most power rankings. The Bengals really pooped the bed with Joe Burrow throwing for like 82 yards, got benched in the fourth quarter. I should know, he's my starting QB on fantasy. but I think we're going to see some movement there. Be interesting to see if there's any movement anywhere else. Maybe so. I guess maybe we move to top 5. But I think it's going to be interesting to see. I would like to see us by the end of September. We're going to need some statement wins.
We're
I
definitely
guess
going to
I'll
be
put it this
better
way.
than San Fran.
Let's
We should definitely be ahead of San Fran.
Our goal should be above San Fran by, post that weekend when we play them
this
October
weekend.
11th.
We're going to be better than them come Wednesday. So, yeah, that's what we are. We're going to be the number 1 team in NFL after this week. Power rankings, Dallas Cowboys. I was just going to bring that out. I was going to ask you, so next week, I know, we have next week's show coming out, but some big news coming Monday, this Thursday night. We got the Jets are playing. A-Rod left the game. Injury. That could be something, while you never want to see happen, it's a pretty big deal for next week. You don't have to face Rodgers. You get to face Zach Wilson, who I think has 2 interceptions already. It's looking better next week.
Already. Yes, it really is. And I think it's just going to be another opportunity for our defense to go to work and eat. Parsons is going to need to make up for the deficit already, because I think TJ Watt has 3 sacks that he got against the Niners, if I'm not mistaken. And so Parsons only walked away with 1.
Who he had more, though? He had more than Joey Bosa. He did have more than Joey Bosa. Just got paid and didn't get any sacks. So Mike is better.
And Joseph didn't practice either.
Hey, let's not stick up for Bosa here, okay?
But it is going to be a big test for our offense, and that's why I'm happy we got to get some of the jitters out, running some preseason type plays because of the blowout. We did not show them anything, so the Jets really don't have anything to go off of from our game. So we still have a lot in the bag that we could come out fresh, and we're going to see a lot of the coverage and schemes, and the Bills are going to push that defense for the remainder of tonight for all they have. So we're going to be able to benefit from that. So I'm pretty happy that the Jets got such a test with the Bills to start week 1.
Yeah, I'm happy. Right now, I think we're flying high off of that 40-0 win. Nick Bosa's not good, dude. Nick Bosa's terrible. Okay, Joey Bosa's the best Bosa. We all know that. But who said Joey? I didn't say Joey. Stop. But yeah, Dallas played great. They covered every facet of the game. They look good. They came out. They looked the way they're supposed to. They handled business. What didn't need to be as hard as it was last year. So I think that's the best takeaway from this week, right? We handled business. What we've been really excited for all season. Man, what a great way to start it out. Week 1, blowout win. Not worrying about it. Cooper Rush gets to come in. It sounded like I could hear douche chants at Giant Stadium. So it was a good day, right? It was a good weekend. So like you said, let's keep that momentum rolling in. We didn't show much. That Dak was able to kind of have not his best performance, but we didn't need it. Next week we'll probably need a little bit better against a better Jets team. But you can't really be upset. There's nothing. I'm sure Dallas, they have the week off. But you prep this week like Raj is going to play until they tell you he's not. But it really looks, if we're playing Zach Wilson, it should be good week 2 too. Nobody cares about him. He's not good.
Right. I mean, they gave up a lot to get Rodgers in, but Wilson is in now as we speak. And
somebody said, yeah. So in the chats, Mr. Zach said they said it could be a Achilles now. They're saying possible Achilles. Yeah. So you don't like to see that. You don't want to see him miss the season, but especially at that age, if that's what that is, he's done.
Yeah, and you wonder. I mean, if that has anything to do with he had a reported calf injury early in training camp, and calf Achilles right there at one. But I don't know if it's the same leg, so I'm just speculating. But excited to get into that pregame matchup We'll do our homework, to see what the Jets try to accomplish today, outside of Aaron Rodgers, the adjustments that they made, and dive into that Thursday night.
Yes, we will. And then, we want to thank everybody that tuned in tonight. I want to thank everybody that's, viewing. The numbers are fantastic. We really appreciate you guys watching us and just checking us out. Be a friend, tell a friend, like us, subscribe to us. We do have, you can catch us on all social media platforms right now. We do have Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Cowboys Takeover Podcast, right there under Mr. Aaron James's name. That's where you're going to see all of our social media pages. Please go give us a like, go give us a comment. Reach out. We do want to interact with people that enjoy the show, and then leave a comment, and then like and subscribe on all the podcast platforms. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor FM, whatever you guys listen to, like, subscribe, give us a comment. It really just helps put us out there. And then, again, be a friend, tell a friend. Cowboys fans all over the world. So, they are America's team for a reason. They're probably the world team at this point. I'm going to go ahead and just put that out there and see if that catches on. Probably won't. But till next time, let's go Cowboys and enjoy this week. Great win.